Welcome to Recap Bay. Today I will recap the movie like Mike. A teenage boy named Calvin Cambridge lives in Chesterfield Orphanage with two of his best friends Murph and Reg. All three of them love to play basketball in the front yard of the orphanage. A group of bullies led by Ox stops them. He challenges Calvin to a match for his basketball jersey. The match starts and Ox easily wins against him because of the significant height difference. As promised, he gets Calvin's jersey and rips it apart just to annoy him. The orphanage director Stan Biddleman often makes the kids sell candy to raise money for their own good. At the end of the game, Calvin spots the Knights coach Wagger getting into a car to leave. He approaches the man offering him some candies. Wagger offers him 4 tickets to the next basketball game. An overjoyed Calvin runs to Murph to tell him about the tickets. The next day, a group of couples comes to the orphanage looking for a child to adopt. At first, Calvin is hopeful, but he soon realizes the parents only want younger kids. Later, they are handed a box of donated clothes from the thrift store. Calvin gets his hands on a pair of shoes and tries them on. When he asks the nun about the shoes, she says that they belong to a famous basketball player. On checking, Calvin finds MJ initials on it. Ox gets jealous of the shoes and takes them away. He ties the laces together and throws them in the air. To Calvin's disappointment, the shoes hang on the power cable. At night, a thunderstorm strikes. When everyone else is asleep, Calvin wakes up Murph. They go outside in the heavy rainfall. Calvin somehow manages to climb a tree near the cable. He reaches for the shoes when suddenly lightning strikes right at them, making Calvin fall to the ground along with the shoes. He doesn't get seriously hurt. He notices that the shoes are charged with a weird force but doesn't think much of it. The following day, the children go to the arena yet again to sell candies. Calvin, Murph and Reg get 4 tickets as the coach had promised. Ox and his group of friends see them and get jealous. The bullies threaten to tell Biddleman to keep him from creating trouble. Calvin offers Ox one of the tickets. During halftime, the team's star player Tracy Reynolds and one of the coaches take part in a halftime show. One person from the audience will get a chance to go one-on-one with Tracy. To the kids' surprise, Calvin's ticket number gets selected for the contest. When Ox finds out, he tries to snatch the ticket from his hands. Calvin somehow tricks him and runs to the front with his ticket. Tracy doesn't think much about the face-off since Calvin is just a kid. He lets him score the first round so the audience would be more involved, but following that he has to stop the kid or he would be humiliated. Tracy tries his best yet couldn't stop Calvin from scoring a slam dunk. The crowd freezes in shock and erupts into cheers while the star player is left embarrassed. The following day, Knights coaches go to meet Biddleman and ask him to let Calvin play for them for a day. Calvin's friends are overjoyed for him. Ox, on the other hand, is furious since Calvin couldn't even win against him before he got the shoes. The kids deduced that the shoes are magical. They decide to keep it a secret so no one would try to take them away, but Ox hears them talk. The following day, Calvin enters the Knights' changing room much to Tracy's annoyance. Calvin is given a Knights jersey and a pair of new shoes that he has to wear. Calvin's presence is only a publicity stunt, so it wouldn't matter how he plays after the last match. He doesn't get to play for the first half of the game as their team is about to lose. He asks the coach to give him a chance, although skeptical he allows Calvin to play. Since he is not wearing his lucky shoes, Calvin is too nervous. To everyone's annoyance, he calls a timeout and runs to the locker room to change into his old shoes. On returning, he is much more confident. The kid efficiently helps his team to catch up with the opponent's points and makes them win. After the match, he signs a contract to play with the team for the rest of the tournament. He is in the orphanage packing up to leave for the tournament when Biddleman confronts him. The man wants to continue being his guardian because of the financial benefits. On the flight, the coach assigns Tracy and Calvin to the same room. He gets ready for a date and leaves after teaching Calvin how to use room service. He had expected to spend the night together with his date, but instead they end up taking care of Calvin, who is sick. Tracy can hardly fall asleep because of Calvin's snoring. Calvin unknowingly reveals to the coach that they stayed up late at night. The coach warns Tracy of suspension. Starting that day, Calvin plays several games with the Knights and helps them win all of them. He gets to go to several press conferences and makes a lot of money. With the money, he buys a bunch of gifts for everyone in the orphanage. He also wins the NBA slam dunk competition. One night, Calvin is talking to Murph about his new life. A jealous ox hears them and attacks Calvin, trying to take his shoes away. Biddleman intervenes and scolds Ox. He doesn't want Calvin to get hurt. Now that he makes so much money off him, he goes to meet Tracy in his house unannounced. The kid is mesmerized by the size of the player's mansion when asked why he is there. Calvin tells Tracy everything about Murph being upset, him not getting good parents, and a geometry test he has tomorrow. To solve the kid's problems, Tracy asks him to invite Murph over. While they wait, he teaches him geometry in a fun way so he wouldn't get bored. In the middle of it, they start playfully throwing paint at each other. Murph joins them a while later. The following day, Calvin and his friends are together talking about how difficult it is to find good parents. When Calvin tells him about Tracy and his father's relationship, they suggest they help them reconcile. The next day, Calvin meets with Trace's father and brings him to Trace's house. The next day, a couple comes to the orphanage asking to adopt Calvin. He is skeptical after several failed meetings, but Biddleman urges him to give them a chance. He makes Calvin wear new shoes, telling him if he looks presentable, they will want to adopt him even more. Before leaving, Calvin hands his lucky shoes to Murph, asking him to guard them with his life. To test the shoes, Murph wears them and tries to play like Calvin, but he fails. He concludes that they do not fit him and continues talking to a picture of his mother. Ox and his friends threaten him to tell them about the shoes. When he refuses, they take him to Biddleman, who burns the only picture Murph has of his mother. With no way out, Murph tells them where the shoes are. After that, Biddleman meets his associates and bets $100,000 against the Knights in the next game. Meanwhile, Tracy meets his father and reconciles with him. He misses Calvin terribly and talks to him before their next match. He wants to adopt the kid, but refrains from telling him that after meeting the couple who he went to see yesterday. 20 minutes before the game, Murph calls Calvin and tells him about the shoes. Calvin rushes back to the orphanage to retrieve them. The kids help him to tie up Biddleman and ask him where the shoes are. Ox goes against the group and tries to help him, but he changes his mind after Biddleman insults him like usual. He brings the shoes out from the safe and gives them back to Calvin. Everyone then gets on their scooters and drives back to the arena. Biddleman somehow frees himself and calls his associate to stop Calvin from arriving at the game. The men stop him, but the kids manage to stall them and let Calvin into the arena. As a last resort, Biddleman stands in front of Calvin, refraining him from going further, but the kid hits him with his scooter and finally gets to the game. At the time of his arrival, his team is behind by a large margin. When he starts playing, they soon catch up with the opponent's score. However, he gets tackled in the middle of the game and his shoes are destroyed. A nervous Calvin believes his magic lies in the shoes, so he would never be able to score without them. Tracy motivates the boy, telling him that the shoes only gave him confidence. The real talent lies within himself. Eventually, Calvin continues the game and helps his team win. Wanting to spend the rest of his childhood like a normal kid, Calvin tells his coach that he doesn't wish to renew the contract. He returns to the orphanage, which is now entirely different because of Biddleman's departure. Tracy tells Calvin about his plans to adopt a child and asks him if he wants to be his son. Calvin agrees on the condition that Murph will also come with him. Their friend Reg is also adopted by a different family. In the end, both Calvin and Murph playfully fight with Tracy in their new room. Please like and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching.